Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Sam Kumar. He's Republican candidate for Assembly 25 and a Reno Gazette-Journal columnist here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. I'm here at the Carson Valley Inn in Minden with Joey Whitaker, and you've got a lot of convention space and meeting breakout space for people. Tell us about what's available.
Well, we can handle a group up to about 250 and anywhere as small as 10 or 15. So it really depends on what you're looking for, what the customer's looking for. We're open to anything. It's a beautiful drive, and if you live in South Reno, it's probably about 30-35 minutes, so it's real easy to get to. It's not a long way to get away to the Carson Valley Inn.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're pleased to welcome back to the program Sam Kumar. He is the Republican candidate for Assembly 25. Pleasure to have you back on the program. And it's fun for me because I have a Democrat and a Republican at least who are both good friends of mine running in Assembly 25. So pleasure to have you back on the program.
Great to be back on the show, Sam. As your viewers are aware, I've been on this program many times as a pundit. This is the first time as a guest, and what you're saying is you're not going to take sides. I'm disappointed.
Well, I never do, sir. I never do. You were the Washoe County Republican chair. You've been a columnist for several years now for the Reno Gazette-Journal, writing from the conservative point of view. What made you want to run for the Assembly?
At a very high level, Sam, we both share one unique standpoint, which is we are both Gen Zero immigrants. And this country means a lot to people like us, and you have highlighted that several times on your program. And I owe this country a debt that'll never be paid. And this is just a mere thank you to this country, which means a lot to me. And I'm going back to a comment that Winsome Sears, the Lieutenant Governor-elect of Virginia, made during her victory speech. She said, "This is not about making history. This is about leaving this place a little bit better than I found it." And that's what it comes down to. The second part of that question is why now? Why not something else or sometime down the road? When redistricting was completed, we basically had in both chambers a significant Democrat majority, which is 2/3 plus one, which would allow them to do pretty much anything. I looked at the numbers and I noticed that District 25 is number 15 for the Republicans. At 15, Democrats do not have a 2/3 majority. There was no way with that much at stake for the next decade I can walk away from this. I felt that it's an obligation to my party, the Republican Party, to our state and to our country for me to step in and run with the ball. So that's why I'm running.
Do you get the sense that we're at a period that's similar to 2014 for Nevada, where the Republicans made a pretty good sweep of all the offices, the major offices in the state, and it seemed like at that point the Democrats just stayed home. With what's going on with the Biden administration, their poll numbers, how does that play into your thinking?
Looking at some of the numbers from around the country, which obviously I've been totally focused on my campaign. I haven't done that to the extent I normally do. I do think that the Democrat turnout is going to be slightly depressed. It's not going to be 40% lower or something like that. 2014 was an aberration. And there's a tendency for people to look at it and say that'll happen again. It may, but we cannot wait for something lucky to happen for us to win. So we need to put in a lot of preparation, find the right candidates for all the different positions, and help them succeed. What I do expect to happen, Sam, is the intensity on the Republican side is going to be significant, and also with the nonpartisans. I expect a major turnout by nonpartisans and Republicans. Slightly depressed Democrat turnout, but significantly higher Republican and nonpartisan turnout. I'm sure you saw the poll yesterday by Quinnipiac, where President Biden is sitting at 25% approval with nonpartisans. I can't remember, I don't think even President Trump got down to that level. So I fully expect a strong tailwind for Republican candidates in this state.
When you look at the country and you look at our state, it's interesting to see that both parties, Republican and Democrat, are both split. You've got a fight going on within the Republican Party, you've got a fight going on within the Democratic Party. How does this affect your campaign in the sense that, you know, if you had a party that was totally together and organized, a machine as it were, that it would potentially be easier for Republicans to campaign? Do you feel you're going to have the support you need from the party?
That's an excellent question. My situation is unique, like you pointed out in the introductory remarks. I've been around for a while, and I know a lot of people. And speaking of the two segments of the party, my views are very conservative. That gets me the support of conservatives. The moderates and nonpartisans, in addition to some degree of political leanings, they also look at competency. Who am I dealing with? Is this someone who can process data, understand the issues, and make the right decision? So that gets the moderate wing of the party and also the nonpartisans in my corner. I don't see any issues at all. As I'm knocking on doors, talking to people, the issues they're having are the same issues that I have seen as problems for our state in terms of taking the next leap forward. So I do not see that as a problem for me. Could it be a problem for other candidates? Potentially. At the end of the day, it's about the donors contributing to the candidates being able to put in the time and effort to understand the issues and to articulate that, to talk to the voters, to have that comfort level. And that's where, you know, being a pundit on your show many times and also writing the columns, I already have a solid footprint and name ID, and I have faced a lot of these questions many times. Just yesterday I was talking to this gentleman who's an engineer. We ended up talking for an hour. Don't tell my campaign team that, which they would frown at that, but it's a fun conversation. I enjoy those conversations. I enjoy the exchange of ideas that comes with it. So it'll have no impact. I will have the support from both segments of the party and also strong support from nonpartisans. And one strange thing I have noticed when I started writing for the Reno Gazette-Journal 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, as a matter of fact, I did not expect much sympathy or support to come from the Democrats. That part, I've been pleasantly surprised. I've heard so many Democrats tell me, sure, they're probably soft Democrats, lifelong soft Democrats. And they have said so many times to me that, you know, I find myself agreeing with you more and more these days, and that's kind of scary. And even hardcore Democrats on specific issues have come to me and said, I don't agree with you most of the time, but this one, you're spot on, I agree with you. So I do expect some degree of support from the Democrats as well.
So your campaign is being run by Robert Eidhoven, and you have an endorsement that you wish to share with us?
Yes, I'd like to announce on your show, which will be airing next Tuesday, that Adam Laxalt has endorsed me. We are not going to send out the press release until after the show has aired next Tuesday, so we'll plan it for next Wednesday or sometime like that, the broader announcement. That's the highest profile announcement so far. We have the endorsement of former State Senator Maurice Washington, and Sheriff Chuck Allen has endorsed me as well. We are taping this show on Thursday, and sometime today Chuck Allen endorsement will be going out. We expect several more endorsements we are working on to come to fruition in the next few weeks.
Well, that's very exciting for you, because obviously Adam Laxalt is a big name, and to get that endorsement is very good for your campaign. You were talking about soft Democrats and soft Republicans. Are you finding, because one of the things about assembly races is you got to pound the pavement. That's the way you win the election, because you're not going to have a huge budget for advertising, and it's certainly not going to be a huge budget for TV and those kind of things. So getting out and knocking on the doors is the most important thing. What's the number one issue that people are raising with you?
If you had asked me before I started walking the district, I would have said schools. Schools are still a major issue, how the mandates have been handled and whether schools are open and all of that. But what has surprised me, what I would have imagined to be the second most important issue is really the first most important issue in the minds of many voters, and that is inflation and the economy overall. If you package that into employment, lack of labor force participation and all of that. So definitely economy is number one, schools are number two.
And that doesn't shock me, obviously, with the schools, because I think that no matter your party affiliation, the problems caused by the school closures were so widespread that it's on the top of everybody's minds. Inflation has come around. It was interesting to talk to a friend a couple of months ago now, actually, but when things were really starting to change, where they said they'd stopped buying beef and they were now buying pork and chicken because it was significantly cheaper than buying beef at this point in time. When people are making those kind of household decisions, that's a big deal, and that's a big deal to people, not just Republicans, Democrats, and nonpartisans, but to everybody.
Yeah, or when you fill up the gas tank. All those things kind of add and get on top of each other. You see one sign here, one sign there. I normally don't pay attention to the price, because I have the same set of items that I go pick up, and I go to Sam's Club, and even I'm starting to notice that a few pounds of chicken wings, it appears to me the price has doubled. And it's across the board. Beef, as an example. I think bacon was up by 20% or something like that. So people are paying a lot of attention to that. And in real terms, you may be getting a raise, if you're indeed getting a raise because of the labor issues and all of that, but you're also paying significantly more. In real terms, you have basically taken a step back because your costs have gone up higher than your pay increases.
And there's an irony there, which is that so many people pushed for a $15 minimum wage, but when you push up wages, and of course certainly in Northern Nevada, but in Southern Nevada as well, people are paying significantly higher than $15 an hour. The market system is working. You need labor, you have to pay for it. But the result is that you have the cost at the other end, because businesses cannot afford to just pay that money out and not raise their prices to match it. I do the grocery shopping in my family, and I'm seeing 15 to 20% increase on my weekly grocery bill, which is substantial.
Yep. And to a lot of people, it is significant, and especially when you have a family with a couple of children, that's a huge increase. That's a good chunk of your total expenditures on a month-by-month basis. So and here's the other challenge. There's a lot of questions about whether it's transitory or not.
I don't think it's, in the short term, I think in terms of the word transitory, we think in, the next few months. With the Fed looking to raise interest rates potentially as much as 4 times over the next year, I don't think they're looking at it as transitory right now.
No, they're definitely not, and I think even Jay Powell more recently admitted it's not transitory, and we could have told him that a year ago. Obviously, he was up for renomination, and I'm sure that played some role in that. And more to that point, Sam, when you're hiring someone to work at a restaurant, because you cannot find anyone, you're paying them $17, $18. Now, a year down the road, say inflation has cooled down, you can go back and say, well, we are going to go back to $12. So I do think it'll stabilize over time. Certain components will probably go down, like we saw lumber spike up and then it came down and it has settled at a higher rate. So I do think that it'll settle at a higher rate than where we are now. And I also think when you look at the CPI numbers, which I believe was about 9% or something like that, it understates the actual pain felt by the people. Inflation is higher than that. And I think over time it'll start to surface.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think wages are going to end up coming down, but other costs, the hard costs of lumber, et cetera, are going to end up coming down just because that's the way the market works, plus the supply chain issues and all that. Let's take a break. We'll come back more and more with Sam Kumar after this timeout.
Calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
Calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're talking with Sam Kumar. He's announced as the Republican candidate for Assembly 25, endorsed by Adam Laxalt, his campaign being run by Robert Eidhoven. I wanted to talk to you about one of the things that, I really haven't heard a good answer to yet, which is all these people who are in the midst of trying to change careers, not wanting to go back to work, the amount of jobs we have open, even though it's less of a problem in terms of an unemployment rate in northern Nevada than it is in southern Nevada, but just this concept of people not going back to work. How do you think that is going to resolve itself down the road? Because eventually it's going to.
It will, and I think, you will see some kind of segmentation in that market. The better educated people, they are not going to take too much time off. And I think it's going to impact people who are less educated and also women to a large extent. And that is my biggest concern, Sam, because it's culturally, women tend to stay home and take care of the children. If they're out of the workforce, the labor force for too long, getting back into it is going to be difficult. So the labor force participation for women, I would expect, will come down over the next few years before potentially picking it up. We have created a sad situation where we have incentivized non-work and punished work. And that's one of the things where we need to turn the corner and go in a different direction. And thankfully, it should not have come down to one man named Joe Manchin. The Build Back Better is now stopped in its tracks. That would have made things significantly worse.
I'm no huge fan of raising taxes, like most people. But one of the things that has struck me, and I've talked about it on the show multiple times, is the cost of childcare. And do you think that this is a place where we should actually think in terms of government programs to provide funding for childcare? Because it makes no sense for somebody to be making 17, 18 bucks an hour and paying 15, 16 bucks an hour for childcare. There's no incentive to go to work there. And if you have multiple children, then the problem is even worse.
I cannot think of a single place, perhaps you can remind me of, if you can think of any, where the government got involved and the prices came down. typically government...
Actually, I'm not saying the prices would come down. What I'm saying is that, you know, when you look at things, to me, what makes sense in terms of taxation is when you have a specific goal and that is what's laid out, and then people can decide whether they want to vote for that or not. For example, building roads. We have RTC taxes in Northern and Southern Nevada that were both voted on. I think the roads in Northern Nevada especially, but Southern Nevada too, I mean look at 15, are fabulous. And a good portion of that is because we have agreed to pay an increased tax, index for inflation, to maintain roads. I'm more, you know, even though I hate paying 30 cents a gallon more than I would be paying in Douglas County, but I'm happy for the roads. So, you know, if there were to be a tax that was specifically towards helping with childcare, I wouldn't be offended by that, because I think if we want women to be back in the workforce, we have to do something to be able to take care of the childcare situation, because it's untenable that you'd be making $2 or $3 an hour for working a full-time job.
Well, my natural tendency and my view is that the less government we have, the better off we will all be. And that applies across the board. On an exception basis, if there's a strong case, I'm happy to look at it, but I'm not seeing any such exception for childcare now. Aren't we doing that through the income tax system, earned income tax credit, and all of that already? So there is sufficient funds going in and credits being offered. I don't see the plan, I don't see the point in government getting involved in subsidizing childcare or anything like that. If there's a strong case, I'm happy to look at it, but that's where I stand right now.
All right, we'll take another break. Back with Sam Kumar after this timeout.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your furnace breaks down today, we fix it today. Why freeze for days while your furnace is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get warm again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 and we'll fix it today. That's 323-5585 or online at nevadaheating.com.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Sam Kumar. He's the Republican candidate for Assembly 25, endorsed as we speak by Adam Laxalt. The state of emergency that the governor has maintained throughout this COVID situation. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, somebody, as I was walking my district, was asking me what grade would I give Governor Sisolak for his handling of COVID. It reminded me of an anecdote. My dorm neighbor, he got an F in one of his classes. So he went to the instructor and said, I don't think I deserved an F. And the instructor responded by saying, I didn't think so either, but there's nothing below that. And, you know, that's how I rate Governor Sisolak's performance with COVID. Emergency has gone on for too long. It's no longer an emergency. We need to have some constraints on how long we can call an event an emergency. But here's the problem. I know we're running out of time. You're looking at your stopwatch,
No,
Sam.
that's fine. I got about a minute left.
So what is the objective? We are going through all these mandates and everything. Is it our goal to cut down on all infections? Are we attacking the problem of infections? Are we trying to minimize mortality? Or what exactly are we trying to do here? And each one of those objectives will have a completely different set of solutions. And at this point, we have completely lost our way. We don't know exactly what we are trying to do. If cutting down mortality is what we are trying to do, most of the people who are dying are elderly with pre-existing conditions. Protect them. Why punish the children with masks and all those things? Why shut down schools? It makes no sense. If we are trying to manage hospital capacity, that's a completely different set of solutions. I don't think 2 years in, we have even determined what our objective should be. And maybe next time you have Governor Sisolak on your show, you can ask him, what is the objective? Because we are not going to prevent infections. It is an upper respiratory infection, which is easily transmitted, especially Omicron variant. So we are completely off track.
Okay, and as I say on the show all the time, if people want information about medical issues, they should talk to their doctors, not people like you and I, politicians and talk show hosts. I appreciate you being here. It's great to have you back, and we'll do a debate with you and Alex and whoever else is running in 25. It'll be fun. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your opportunity.
You're
Thank you
very
so much,
welcome,
Sam.
and we'll be right back.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and Twitter. Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Events Center in Las Vegas. Host meetings and events on 2 floors. Stay in luxurious rooms and suites. Unlimited branding opportunities. Regional Italian cuisine by Chef Mark Segrisi. Flexible event spaces. Full buyout options. Visit ahernhotel.com today.
I'm Jeff Gehrman, an investigative reporter with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I'm your guide for Season 2 of Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas.
You're in with every gangster and hoodlum in the United States. I don't go for that, Mr. Kennedy. I don't go for that kind of action.
I was on television accused of fronting for the mob.
Subscribe to Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas, Season 2, today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Before the masks, before the distancing, before the world changed, UMC was ready. Our response to COVID-19 began before the crisis did, with our own team of infectious disease experts who've spent their careers planning for this moment. With a pandemic response plan, we'd practiced again and again, and by blazing new trails in large-scale testing, including every patient we admit. Always ready. UMC.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and YouTube. Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Don't forget, another way of watching Nevada Newsmakers is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. We'll see you on the next broadcast.